Hi everybody, meteorologist Joe Cioffi here. Friday night, July 20th, 2018. Welcome aboard. Want to start off the bat. Yesterday we were so focused on the weather that was going on here in the east and the impact that that was going to have for the weekend that we really didn't spend a whole lot of time on weather that was going on elsewhere. And of course, we've had this horrific severe weather outbreak last night. 28 tornadoes reported in the state of Iowa, and of course front and center is the boat sinking in Missouri. I believe the death toll is at 16. Horrible. The radars were extremely active. My understanding is that warnings on those thunderstorms went out at 6:30 in the evening, and the boat sinking took place. I believe the time was after 7 o'clock Central Time. This is one of these weather warnings and weather watches have to be taken seriously. You really hope that nothing comes of these things, and you're thankful if nothing comes of this. I know some people seem to go along the lines of almost expressing extreme disappointment. I understand where you're coming. Some of those people are coming from the standpoint of seeing an extraordinary weather phenomena, but we have to always remember that there is a human that there is our human element here, and we're talking about dangerous conditions and life-threatening conditions. So please bear that in perspective when criticizing your local weather guy if they're forecasting something and it doesn't quite turn out to be as dire. Now, I want us, before we even talk about the weather for tomorrow, we have a really large severe weather potential event going on throughout much of the Ohio Valley and into the Tennessee Valley. The moderate risk of severe weather. I'm trying to figure out that red that pops up, if that is because of a rather large-scale tornado warning. The thing is, it comes and goes very quickly. So indeed, actually, it is. I mean, I'm just looking at the watches and warnings map, and we do have, tornado watches. Tornado watches, let me be clear on that. Watches that are up for much of the state of Tennessee, northern Alabama, northernmost Georgia, a good chunk of the state of Kentucky. There is what's left of a severe thunderstorm watch in southeastern Kentucky. You can see that in the blue box. And there's another severe thunderstorm watch that is up for parts of Arkansas and southeastern Missouri. This is a very large area of slight risk. And then we have the enhanced and moderate risk areas, but it covers a very large area geographically. I'm trying to just think back over the spring and into the summer months in terms of the area of risk that was drawn, and this has got to be the largest one in terms of the geography covering. And the thing is, when we go to the here's the map of what's going on warnings wise. The yellows where we have the tornado watches up, and that pinkish area in southeastern Kentucky is the severe thunderstorm watch. Also, by the way, we have an expanding area of heat throughout much of the southern plains and the lower Mississippi Valley and down through the Gulf states in the orange and red, with heat advisories and excessive heat warnings. And we've got red flag warnings up, and also excessive heat. Actually, those might. I gotta check what that red is, because the colors sometimes are so close. That red. Just bear with me here, folks. Actually, I can do it this way. The red area is an excessive heat watch. It just kind of matched the flash flood watch, flash flood warning color. It gets confusing because some of these colors are close together. But the bottom line is, you can see what's happening with respect to the weather in the eastern part of the United States, and this is all due to this upper low that is dropping down, this really vigorous upper low. I've got the radar. This is the radar as of 8 o'clock Eastern time. And we can see two bands of downpours and thunderstorms coming through eastern Kentucky. And then there's a second band that is moving in through southeastern Indiana and parts of western Ohio. Looks like the part that's in southeastern Indiana is the strongest. And this is the upper low yesterday as it was dropping southeastward through the upper Mississippi Valley that triggered off that humongous severe weather outbreak. Now, in the southeast, this is the area of low pressure. You can see from the radar that this is not a tropical system. Much of the radar activity has diminished a bit this evening. Most of it is offshore. There's a broad low center that is developing there, and that is going to be moving its way up the eastern seaboard. Let me shift the radar just a little bit so you bring the that whole upper. Look how large an area this covers. You know, you see these upper lows almost any other time of year, especially in the spring. To see something like this right in the middle of the summertime really indicates how out of whack the atmosphere is right now. This cold upper low with the strong July daytime heating that occurs, it's no wonder that we're getting the severe weather outbreak that we're seeing. Really incredible to see something like this time of year. I'm trying to get now. All right, so here's the radar, the close-up radar into southeastern Indiana. Again, this is at 8 o'clock Eastern time. So if you are watching this on the replay, please be sure to check with your local National Weather Service office regarding the latest radar activity and the latest watches and warnings that may be up at your area, and you can access that by going to weather.gov. Meanwhile, these little yellow boxes that pop up, these are all severe thunderstorm warnings that are going up as of, again, now 8:02 Eastern time. You can watch this on the satellite loop. Here's the Great Lakes satellite loop centered there on the GO 16. And there's the blow up that occurs across the eastern parts of Indiana and Ohio. So this is all that thunderstorm activity, and also the obvious rotation of the upper low itself spinning around, and those clouds just rotating in that counterclockwise fashion. This system is the driver for everything that's going to be happening during the next 5 to 7 days in the eastern part of the United States. And of course, first things first is the system in the southeast. Notice the difference between the two. You don't have that rotation. You have the clouds just kind of streaming off to the northeast. There's probably some sort of broad, low-level circulation there around a surface low that's developing off the Carolinas, but there's just no room for this to become tropical. It's basically married to that upper low to the north, and in fact, on the northwest, the upper left of the picture, you can see the thunderstorms from the upper low moving southeastward. So as the upper low drops southward, that's going to pick up the system that is off the southeast coast and send it rocketing up the eastern seaboard. So we'll start with, the NAM3, and even the NAM3 is having some issues tonight. Here's the radar. So the NAM3's view of the upper air system, not really doing as good a job with that. The radar echoes in the south, but I'm going to rotate this for you folks really quickly because I want you to watch and see how the system near the coast reacts to the system that is dropping southeastward from the upper Midwest. And if you think back to a few days ago, where and at one point last week when I tried to illustrate when the upper air pattern that you would see when it comes to a tropical system moving up the eastern seaboard, creating that strong southerly flow. This is why that upper flow is so important in driving everything, because if you think if there was a tropical system off the southeast coast right now, as we put this in motion, that low to the west as part of the reflection of the upper air system, drops southward, while the system in the southeast rotates northward. They basically spin around each other. And in fact, that low in the upper Midwest is going to eventually find its way down into the Gulf, perhaps early next week. I read it real fast, but I'll do it a little bit slower. But you can see it here. The system from the south moving north, the system from the Great Lakes basically dropping southward. The upper air reflection of this smooths it out a bit, so you'll see it a bit better. You can't really see the reflection. The reflection of the system at the coast here is kind of, you see where the line breaks down off of the South Carolina coast. So that reflects that's the upper air reflection of the system that's along the Carolinas, and then the really dominant feature that's dropping in from the Great Lakes. And you can watch that southern system just kind of lifts that arm that's now east-west and lifting northward. The upper low drops southward and drops down into Alabama and Georgia. This is as of Monday night. The flow along the east coast is straight southerly. So this means that anything with regards to downpours that you would see that might be developing in the tropical air and the moist air that's going to be along the east coast, those downpours will be streaming northward through much of next week. The GFS is the model that takes us out far enough. The GFS actually holds on to this upper low a little longer, eventually finds its way almost into the northern Gulf, and then it gradually disappears. But notice that as that happens, another trough tries to swing down into the Great Lakes and then eventually takes over. And now we're at the very end of the month and the beginning of August. So we are still going into the beginning of August. You are going to have a tendency for troughing in the east, the ridge in the Atlantic just offshore. And this is going to be problematic on a day-to-day basis because we will see opportunities for downpours pretty much every day. So let's now go and look specifically with regards to what's going to happen tomorrow in the east, because we do have a marginal risk of severe weather being indicated for coastal New Jersey, southern Connecticut, Long Island, and southeastern New England from the Storm Prediction Center. And with the surface low tracking the way it is, I think you're going to see two things of importance. By the way, here's the NAM3's handling of that severe weather in the Ohio Valley tonight. And then it gradually disappears overnight. But now you're going to start to see into view what comes up tomorrow. So we've got some downpours and embedded thunderstorms that move into eastern Virginia, the Delmarva Peninsula, into southern New Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania tomorrow morning. By tomorrow evening, 5 o'clock, just 6 o'clock, just about to New York City. Now you see that hook of echoes, where the low center is, bands. They're going to be bands of rain sweeping up from the south, and embedded in those bands will be some heavy thunderstorms. And this is where the Storm Prediction Center is going for this idea of marginal risk. And by the way, it's playing the SBC seems to be playing catch up with this system in the east. So I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow we see a small area of slight risk embedded inside of a larger area of marginal risk and spread it westward. That's what I'm getting from the models and from what I'm seeing with this surface low track. In instances like this, we've seen occasionally those EF0 tornadoes and also water spouts. And I think there's a chance that you could see that. Also, as the system has been shifting westward, the actual surface low is moving up along the Pennsylvania-New Jersey border or just west of that. So there will be some heavy rains that will be moving through eastern Pennsylvania as well as through New Jersey. Now, to the east of that, it's going to be whatever survives with these bands as they lift northward. So the rain may be less, but the two bands that work through might be intense for a short period of time until they play themselves out. Now, by Sunday, by the way, also up in upstate New York, in north central New York State, in and around Watertown, Pulaski, on over to Syracuse, Rochester. All this whole area is bone dry. Everything is burned to a crisp as far as the fields up there. The rivers are extremely low. So this rain is going to be very much appreciated and much needed. It moves very, very quickly. So you get what you get tomorrow night in upstate New York, and for everybody for that matter. Now here's what I'm talking about for Sunday. Look out in the Atlantic Ocean. You see the thin, dark lines, the isobars. They are pretty much indicating that straight southerly flow. So as we go through the day, you get these small bands or batches of thunderstorms that develop and lift northward, and they play on through. And this is going to be the risk, I think, through much of this week. This is actually at 2 o'clock in the morning on Monday, if the NAM3 is correct, where you've got this band that runs right along the immediate coast, up the coast, up toward to New York City and into western New England and western Long Island. We're going to be playing this game from day to day, every day next week. Some days the models will put downpours in some places and not in others, and then other days it'll move it around. Here's the GFS's view going into Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday, down Wednesday, perhaps a little bit less on Wednesday, and then it fires them up again as a bit of a frontal boundary, makes its way to the coast by the end of the week. And there's an indication that maybe we might get a break for a day or so next weekend before we start the process all over again due to the overall long-range pattern. I'm going to just do this again on the wider view so we can watch what's happening everywhere else. So here's our weather for Sunday, Monday. You see the rainfall in the eastern part of the United States continues, and that broad surface low from the northern feature dropping down into the northern Gulf of Mexico. It just kind of holds a weak circulation there, and then it disappears. It never gets down deep enough into the Gulf on the models anyway to try to perhaps make a tropical system out of it. But every day next week we do seem to have threats for rain. Then it looks like a bit of a break Saturday into Sunday before the next weather front starts swinging on through, and we do it all over again. The upper flow is on the North America view. We'll take a look here. Toward the end of the period, the trough in the east is still there, but it kind of flattens out a little bit. But we've got work to do to get there, and we don't know what that's this run. We don't know what the next run will bring. So here's the upper low in the east disappears. The next one comes right in its place and almost does something very similar, although a little bit further to the west. Now we're into the first days of August. Again, we've got to be careful here. If there's no tropical system that's being indicated by the models, nor do we have any kind of system out in the tropical Atlantic right now. Conditions are still not favorable really for tropical storm formation. You still have the Saharan dust issue. You still have a couple of upper lows running around with wind shear issues. So that is, at least we don't have that to worry about. But whenever you got that trough in the east, you always have to have it in the back of your mind. What if there is a tropical system there? We do want to pay close attention to that. I want to bring up SPC's map. I'm sorry, WPC's map, the Weather Prediction Center. And let me free it up. There you go. So this is the 7-day rainfall. The orangish area here inside those reds, that's all basically 5 to 7 inch rainfalls for the next 7 days over a large area running from upstate New York down through the eastern half of Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Some pretty ample rain amounts all the way down into the Carolinas, and then it lessens a bit as you head west toward the Ohio Valley, and then it lessens even further near the Mississippi River. You still have an area of higher moisture in the Rockies and in the west central plains, a little bit in the southwest, but it's really in the east, with the trough in the east, that we still have these large rainfall amounts that forecast by WPC, and I don't think they're inconsistent with what models are doing. In fact, we'll go back to that. You have to excuse me. Sometimes I think of certain things I want to show you on the fly, so I try to do that and bring them up. So let me, whoops, it's the one behind it. All right, move it to the top. And let's go to the eastern U.S. and we can bring the total accumulated precip. Now this is through the next 16 days, so we'll cut it in half and just go to the next 7 days. So the GFS through Friday, you know, the reds are basically up into the 6-inch plus range, but you certainly have in those purples a large area of 2 to 6 inches, pretty much everywhere east of the Mississippi, with those pockets of higher amounts showing up. And remember, folks, models are not going to give you the correct amount for any of these areas right now. Obviously, you know, you're dealing with convective stuff, and that means there will be variations. We're going to probably see rainfall amounts in some areas a week from now when you total it all up that are going to be higher than these numbers, and in some places we're going to see the rainfall amounts being lower than these numbers. By the way, there's a lot of the model consensus with regards to the events of this weekend. The models are all very close. The late afternoon GFS run maybe was a shade to the east, but it still kind of winds up in the same spot anyway. I don't think it really changes the profile of what I've discussed tonight with respect to the forecast. Nice to see a lot of you on tonight, by the way. Welcome aboard, and those of you who are watching for the first time, thank you for being on my YouTube channel. Do subscribe, and please feel free to participate in the chat. If you've got any questions, a lot of the regulars are here, from Johnny Quest to Dio Nankamar, Steve Franco, Priscilla Mayu, Bertha Gunter, Tyler Knepp, Robert Hurley, William Huber, Sebastian P., James NASCAR, 99 Wolves. Good to see all of you guys here. Anthony Orr, Iron Mind, and Green Fire, Scott Briller. All terrific to see you here. Okay, I'm going to kind of go backwards in terms of the chat here. So for any questions, Scott Briller, at the height of the storm tomorrow night, can there be any power outages in Monmouth County? If you get into some of the stronger thunderstorms that might develop, yeah, listen, I wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't be a shocker. Definitely, I think the further west you go, the more rain you're going to get. The places to the east are going to, you know, what happens will depend on the convective bands as they lift up and spiral around. I heard Dio Nankamara, one of the streams, if the low could get dropped to 990, 995. I don't think it's going to do that. The low, on some of the earlier runs of the NAM a few days ago, the surface low was basically taking a track right up along and just east of the New Jersey coast, which would have made it a whole different ball game here in terms of outcome. But and I think it would have also argue that you probably would have wound up with something a little bit more on the hybrid side, because to get to off the New Jersey coast, it probably would have taken a track further offshore where it is now in North Carolina, maybe moved right over the Gulf Stream and shot northward from there. So you might have been dealing in that case with something subtropical or even tropical, but I don't think you're not going to get the pressures down to 995. Maybe it gets down to 1,000 millibars or 1,002, but I don't think it's going to get much lower than that. Robert Hurley does with the large low over the Great Lakes transfer energy to the coastal low. Well, you know, in a sense, that's kind of what's happening. The coastal, the reflection of the coastal system is married to that upper low. So the upper low is juicing it up as it lifts northward, as that upper trough goes completely negative and goes east-west and lifts it up northward. So in some respects, And I know a number of the weather folks that I look at and read from time to time pointed out that, and I think rightfully so, that the look, the upper air look, did in a lot of ways resemble something that you would probably see, you know, in the wintertime than in the middle of summer. Anthony Orr, I'm reading what you're saying. Why would I? No, I would never do that. Thanks, I appreciate the very kind words, though. You know, you're always, and actually, you know, Anthony, you're a great help. Anthony is so good with digging statistics and looking stuff up. He's kind of become the unofficial statistician of this YouTube channel. So, you know, when I have one of my my mind fades where I can't remember a statistic, or he digs it right up and does a great job. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for being here on a daily basis. Let's see. Just to keep going, I got a few new posts. Thank you, Michael Lonergan. Appreciate what you say very much. Barbara Ryan, your area is very dry. Any rain in that amount, which is Lancaster. You might get a decent amount of rain, Barbara. They do have flood watches up for southeastern PA to just east of you. I thought maybe they would put those, you know, let me just double check if the flood watch does go into Lancaster right now, into Lancaster County. No. Reading is in it. Philadelphia is in it, but you're just to the west. You're one county west of the flash flood watch as it stands now. I would not be surprised to see that flash flood watch extended westward. I was a little surprised that they didn't do it tonight, but I don't know what the criteria was, and maybe it in the views of the forecasters it didn't meet it. But I wouldn't be shocked at all if you wind up seeing that flash flood watch, as I think you're going to get a couple of inches of rain out of this where you are. Johnny Quest, who lives now in probably the rainiest place on earth, in the Blue Ridge Mountains. I think where I live, we'll get more than 7 inches, doing be surrounded by mountains. And oh well, yeah, no question, you're gonna pile on even more. I don't know what you guys are doing. What happens to all that water that has fallen by you? And I ask that seriously. I mean, I would imagine all the local streams and rivers must be packed up to the bank full with all the rain that you've had. It's got to be upwards now to 50 or 55 inches in the last 3 or 4 months. Going up further, let's see. Well, the large low. Okay, we got that with the upper low. Fireworks tomorrow night, Orange County near Middletown, and will we make it before the rain? Oh, Bender Fisher, right now I would think some of that rain's going to get in your area after 7 o'clock. You know, may not get in there during the day tomorrow, but it will get in there probably sometime later tomorrow evening. I'm thinking it will be raining come fireworks time. This time of year, it's tough. Everybody you want nice weekends to spend it outdoors in the summer weather, which of course in the Northeast and in the Mid-Atlantic states has been exceptional the last 3 days. Just kind of etch that in your memory, because we're not really going to see that anytime soon. Stephen White, 2011, 2012. Yeah, it was kind of a strange year. Let's see. David Schwartz, nice to see you here. 99 Wolves was gone and came back. Lower of Hudson Valley for Green Fire. Saturday, I think the daytime north of New York City, the daytime, and maybe east of New York City too for Long Island, probably not a problem during the day. We may actually start tomorrow morning off with sunshine for a few hours before the clouds start to roll in with the southeast flow. And then we get into that shot of rain. It's basically about 6 to 8 hours and done. So it's whatever we get in that 6 to 8 hour time frame. I think that there's a good chance for 1 to 2 inches of rain, depending on how the thunderstorms set up and who, if you get into some of the more intense bands and the intense downpours. There will be areas as you go to the west. I think Once you go, say, from western New Jersey westward, there'll probably be more on the order of 2 to 3 inch amounts where those flash flood watches are posted. So just bear that in mind. All right, folks, coming up on 25 minutes after 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Once again, let me remind you, if you're watching this on a replay, the radars and satellites are obviously dated, but I'm particularly concerned about the radars and the severe weather. So you need to check your local National Weather Service office, and you can access that on weather.gov to see what the latest is concerning any severe weather outbreaks that are going on tonight. So I can't emphasize that enough, considering what we had severe weather-wise and what happened yesterday in 28 tornadoes in Iowa, the sinking of that boat near Branson, Missouri, in that severe thunderstorm. You know, it's really important that you make sure that you have the absolute latest information when it comes to severe weather. Just really quick, William Huber, Met Yankee game at 1 o'clock. You should be a go, from what I can see. I don't think the rain gets in here until after the game is done. Okay, so we're going to call it a night. Let me just tell you, we are going to do a Joe and Joe weather show on Facebook. My colleague Joe Rayo will join me at 8:45, I believe, and then we will. For those of you who are not on Facebook, Meteorologist Joe Cioffi is the page. I will upload it to the video library. In case you didn't see it, I did upload last night's, where we had, as a special guest, we had meteorologist Bill Goodman from the National Weather Service in Upton, New York, and we talked about this whole situation that's going on this weekend. If you're interested, take a look at that. He had a lot of very good things and very good things to say, meteorologically speaking, and pointing out what was going on in the upper atmosphere and what we should be looking for. So you might want to give that a look. And then finally, just as a mention, that we're a participant in the Amazon Services LLC Associates program, which is an affiliate advertising program designed to provide a means for this channel to link to Amazon and affiliated sites. You shop on Amazon and get your stuff. Amazon throws me back some coin if you use the link that's on this video. And also the same applies for Ebates. If you join up with Ebates to get cash back wherever you shop at all the major retailers, this is a way of doing it, and it's a way for my channel to earn some fees from Ebates. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, as always. Please be safe tonight and this weekend, particularly if you're watching from areas where severe weather is a concern. And we will, of course, keep you up to date on all of this tomorrow with regards to what's happening with the weather system moving up the East Coast and any other severe weather outbreaks that will be occurring.